Hello, anyone that's listening to this. Just my thoughts, part 2. I will eventually get to a story of local tyranny, but for now, I'm at the Sand Spring Cemetery, downtown Stringtown, Kentucky, and there's a lot of people here. There's a line of duty death, Eric Chrisman, KSP, over there. There's Harold J. Toll is closer to the church. He was in the Navy in World War II and was the first KSP line of duty death. And here's Charles Toll, or CC Toll, as we remember him, as a school bus driver back in the day. And he was a POW in World War II. I just remember him as a bus driver, but his widow, I think she's still around, is here's a World War II right here. Not a killed in action, but a Bronze Star Medal and a Purple Heart, Mr. Birdwhistle. Back to CC Toll. I talked to him one day. We were at a band competition, sitting there waiting around with him, and he told me his stuff. He was a POW. They didn't have hardly anything to eat. Had potatoes and turnips. But he worked at a dairy farm, so he had all the milk he ever wanted. But there was an interesting thing he said. And people knew in Germany, they knew kind of early on. Hitler came to power in 1933, started the war with England September 1st, 1939. You know, they declared war. France and England declared war on him after he invaded Poland, and it was on. And then the United States joined. December 7th, 1941 is when Pearl Harbor was. We declared war on Japan, and then Hitler declared war on Germany soon after. But it wasn't real long after that, about a year or so after, the average German person knew that the war was lost, but they never said anything. And then after Stalingrad, loss of the German 6th Army under Paulus, they really knew it was lost, but nobody said anything. Everybody was quiet. And CC said that the farmer at night would put hay bales around the window in the barn and pull out this little secret radio he had and listen to the BBC out of London. He was not worried about the German government hearing him, or the Gestapo. He was worried about his neighbors, and because they would turn him in, because they were part of Team Stuttgart, or Team Berlin, or Munich, or Team Kentucky, or whatever the team was at the time. And it was all together for the greater good type of thing. And he was afraid that his own neighbors, perhaps even his own family, would turn him in. Here's another grave. Luther Davenport was trying to find this grave. I think this is the one up here he couldn't find, and I've since found it. William C. Williams, which is kind of a confusing name. Tech 5, 242nd Infantry Division, World War II. Died on March 15th, 1945. It's 2 months after his 25th birthday. And I looked up the unit just a minute ago, and I think it said it was the Rainbow Division, but they fought at the Siegfried Line around that time, so probably killed by the Germans at that time. And a young man, and he was fighting the Germans, and we call them the Nazis, but it was actually the National Socialist Party. This is a helmet that my grandfather from Russell Springs brought back from World War II. It's in really good shape. I took it to the History Museum and asked him, should I put saddle soap on it, or what's the best way to preserve it? He said, no, just keep it in a cool, dark place. And it is a cool, dark place. But the question I have is, how did a whole country full of predominantly Christian people, there's Protestants, heavy Catholics, but a Christian people for the large part, very well educated and very civilized, how in the world do they fall into taking National Socialism hook, line, and sinker? I'm gonna lay it on this grave. I would not dare disrespect the American soldier who was killed by these socialists to lay it on his grave. But how did that country fall for that? How did they go into that? And how they went into it was, just like everything else, there's always a certain percentage of people that believe in things, and then there's a whole bunch of them that don't, but they don't want to say anything because they don't want to get involved. They don't want to lose their job down at the loading dock. They don't want to lose their job at the school system, down at the PD, down at courthouse, down at City Hall, down at the plant, fill in the blanks, right? Nothing new under the sun. But what would have happened if those people, Hitler came to power in 1933, and again, the war started in 1939. In 1942, 1943, it was pretty clear that they were going to lose. What would have happened if more people had risen up and said, we're not doing this? But they kept going, and they kept going. Well, I don't want to get involved. What will they say about me? I believe you, but you can't say anything. Here's what's going on. I made a list of names here. These are people in the last week, and I won't say the names because I don't have their permission. In Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, there's a military contractor that I know who risked losing a 6-figure income, said he made $100,000 a year, and transferred jobs around because he was not willing to have one of these stuck in his arm with God only knows what kind of crap is inside. Okay? He didn't want to get one of these. He was going to lose his job, so he left. This is in Lawrenceburg. A factory worker I was talking to last night, he said, I'm old enough, I have religious reasons for not getting this thing, for not having this thing stuck in his arm. He's going to lose his job because of that. But wait, there's more. There's a federal employee, I believe he's 2 or 3 years away from retirement, and he told him, medically, I'm against this thing. I don't think there's a reason for it. Medically, I do not like what is inside of it. And religiously, it goes against my religion because of the way it was developed. He may lose his job, but he said, I can at least be clear conscious with God about what I did. And there's an Air Force veteran who's a machine tech or something for a company. He's been doing it for a long time. And they told him, if you don't get this thing right here, because we know what's best for you, not you. No, it doesn't matter if you're a veteran or not. We know what's best for you, and you can't keep your job, even though you've done a great job, unless you get one of these. And again, he'll lose his job in December. And then there's another person in town. They're a OT or PT or some kind of T. I don't know all the different T's they are. Doing this for a long time, heavy income, and they've decided they're not going to get it. Yeah, but you got to get it. You work at this place. I'm not going to get it. They trust me medically, right? I had to get a license to go to college and get all this stuff. Medically, I don't think it's necessary because they're not willing to get this. Because they don't want to go along with National Socialism that says they have to have this kind of thing. And basically, folks, what's going on? This is not even a law. And executive orders are kind of sketchy, and every president's done them. But this is not even an executive order. The president pulled this out of his butt. It's called ruling arbitrarily. By this date, I want you to have this. Well, I mean, I wish everybody'd send me $15.16, but I probably won't get very much of it because I don't have the authority to ask for it, you know? But he did that, so all these companies are going to get rid of their employees. These are 5 people in Lawrenceburg. That's just that I know, that I've just talked to. I'm not even looking for this kind of information. Are we that fearful of this problem that's going on, of this big illness? I know that it's taken some people out and various other things. I have a person I know that had 2 life-ending ailments, had a kidney issue and a liver issue in hospice, and was tested positive for this. And I guarantee, even though they're in hospice, I guarantee when they died, I guarantee what the cause of death was. And I can't even say the cause of death on here because Facebook screens this stuff. That's the kind of dystopian world that we live in now, because we're basically living under National Socialism. I'm just saying, all the people out there, we the people, when this is over with, hopefully we'll still be surviving. I personally think we're under the judgment of God and we're reaping it for the millions of aborted babies, but eventually this will clear up. There may not be a country left, but when we do, we're going to remember, we the people will remember who were done wrong. And we're going to remember the law enforcement officers that actually defended the Constitution. We're going to remember the judges in a good way. Everybody took their oath of office to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. People have freedom to go get this thing or no, not go get this thing. We're not living under some kind of rule where Joseph Goebbels or Goering or any of these guys or Himmler or Hitler tells us what to do. We have freedoms, don't we? Or do we? American flag flying across the street there. KSP, Kentucky, an American flag flying there. Do we have freedoms? Is it really that important to inject this in your fellow people's arms under threat of losing their livelihood? That's the same thing as a king coming down and saying, if you don't obey, we're going to burn your barn down and basically destroy your livelihood. Is that right? Is that what we want? Ones that are pro this type of thing, or the ones that are not in favor of this from a medical perspective? Do you really want people to walk around and knocking people out of their jobs? Is that what we really want? Think about it. This guy right here Mr. Williams died for our freedoms. And I guarantee you he did not die so we live in a land where they would shove these in people's arms under threat of losing their livelihood. I think we can do better than that, America. If you look at all the problems it's created, the supply chain and stuff, and we've not even begun to see that yet. Eventually, this will come for all of us. We're all going to pay a price. You can't have a ship come into port and one guy test positive one time and turn the ship around and ban them from coming in the country. You can't do that. I had a friend worked at, this is kind of lengthy, but I'm ending with this. I had a friend that worked at a hospital and had positive test strips, sterile test strips, and they're bored one day. Boop, positive, boop, negative for the big illness going around, boop, positive. This was last year. They said something about it, and their supervisors came by and made them sign a non-disclosure act. So they signed this saying, well, yeah, I got to keep my job. I've got a kid. I can't. Fast forward a year later, they come by and they go, well, guess what, guys? What? It's time for one of these things. Well, I don't want to get that. Yeah, if you don't get that, you're going to lose your job. And they gave in. If you give in on this or anything else, you're going to have to give in again. Because there'll be another booster and a third booster. It's 29 boosters. And you're going to compromise. If this goes against your conscience, I'm telling you, if you don't stand your ground now, you never will. And again, you can share this. You can love me. You can hate me. I don't care. But I'm not going to be lukewarm on the issue any longer. And that's just my thoughts. And they're worth, a bucket of warm spit. But they're my opinion. And again, I'm never going to be lukewarm on this issue because I don't want us to end up running around Sieg Heiling to people like this. My grandfather fought to keep these guys away. C.C. Toll fought to keep them away and spent a long time in a POW camp. Mr. Williams there died to prevent socialism. So I don't think we should just willingly give it away and give up our freedoms for our future generations that come after us.